I want to create a dashboard where I take this file, which has names and a birthday separated by a comma, and turn this into a dashboard where I can see when was the last birthday and who was it, when is the next birthday and who is it, a graph that shows me the birthdays in the current month, a graph that shows me the birthdays in the whole year, and then birthdays in the last 3 months and in the next 3 months. And then I also want to take into account that when there are less than 3 months left, I still wanted to show 3 whole months. So when I'm in December, I don't want to only see December. And the same applies in the first 3 months. So when I'm on the 14th of January, I don't want to see the 1st January to the 14th of January. I want to show the 1st of January until the 31st of March. And I also have this little block here, which you can't see anything right now because this will show me if it's a birthday today. So if I go into my calendar and I find my today's date, measure, and I change that to a date where I know someone has a birthday. So that could be the 12th of September. Then I will see that they have a birthday. Yeah, so now I can see, okay, this person has a birthday today, and also notice that these two measures that show me the latest, the last birthday and the next birthday, they are exclusive of today. So this is the person who has a birthday today, this was the one before, and this is the next one. And we can confirm this by saying, actually you can't see that because I haven't added the names to this one, because you might want to anonymize your work. Probably not in this case, but if you want to apply the same logic in this dashboard as to something like how people register work hours, then you'll want to anonymize it, because you don't want data visualization to be used for something like having a very serious conversation. At least I wouldn't support that. So the first thing I need to do is to load my data. In other words, the Power Query step, which is just finding my source, and that was a CSV. Actually, I think it's saved as a CSV file. And then it will try to split this up based on a space as my separator, but that's not correct. My separator is a comma. And you might be able to see the error that's going to happen here, but I'm going to ignore that, and then I'll show what the error is and how to deal with it. Because I actually don't have to do anything right now if everything was working properly. You can see it recognizes column 1 should be text and column 2 is date. So all I actually want is to change the column headers. So if we pretend that everything was going fine, then this is all I have to do. But I also need a calendar table, and I'll be using Power Query instead of DAX's auto calendar, because the auto calendar finds the minimum date and the maximum date and creates a list of dates between, and that's not what I want. I want the 1st of January of the current year and the 31st of December in the current year. And I can do that by making a new query where I will call this calendar. And first I want to grab the minimum and end on the last. So I will be using a list. Next I need the equal sign. I want to create a list of values where I want to find the minimum value and then the maximum value, and then it will generate all the values in between. In other words, it will add 1 to the minimum and add 1 to that and add 1 to that until I get to the maximum. So I know for a fact that I want to start on the 1st of January, and I'll use the hashtag date to create a date, which works in the same syntax as it does in DAX. So I need the year first, but I need to grab the year from the current date because I want this to be variable. So I want that from local now, and that's a function, so I need open close. And that is my year. And now I have a bit too many parentheses. And I want the first, and I want the first. And I can just copy this portion and say I also want that as my maximum value, but it should be the 12th and the 31st. And then it's mad because it thinks that's a date, so I need to convert that into a number, because it's trying to generate a list which requires it to be a number. So I'm converting my date into a number. Actually, no, that was a mistake. I need that to be here. And this looks fine. I'm gonna find out real quick if it is fine. So this generates all of the dates from the 1st of the 1st of January of the current year, and all the numbers between that number and the 31st of 12. But of course this isn't super helpful because these are the dates. This is the number of days from the 1st of January 1900. So I want to convert that into a table first. And I don't want to do anything like that. And then if I convert that into a date, then it will be proper. And we can see here 1st of 1st, 2023, 31st of 12, 2023. And then I want some extra informations. I want the date. I want not the year. I need the month, which is a number, and I need that for sorting index, and I need the name of month, and this is with a small capital starting letter, which I think is ugly, so I want to change that. But first I want to add another column where I grab the first 3 letters, so I have the shorthand, and then I want to make this capital letters because I think that looks prettier. And then I want to have different names, month number and month name. Yeah, and that should not have a big N. And month. Yeah, and then this gets mad because I've just changed the name of the column. And then I can say, should be month 3 digit. And then capitalize each word, which is month name. So when you get these errors, it's usually, just a matter of reading the error message and trying to figure out what does this mean. The column month enemy can't be found. Well, if we go back and say, well, that's not what it's called, so that makes perfect sense. I also want to show another error which actually happened when I made my preparation, which is where I was a little bit too hasty. So if I just try to create a table where I have, that should not be called column 1. That should be called my dates, and then we can go back. So if I just try to make a regular table where I grab all my birthday, actually that should be a graph, and that should be my y-axis. Yeah, it's a little bit confused because why am I getting the exact same number every time? That is because I haven't used 2 different tables, but there's no relation yet. So I forgot to go into model view and say that birthday is related to date in a one-to-one relationship, because in this case I only have, I don't have any people that have the same birthday, which is why I want to add a temporary step where I go in and add here. I need to add the temporary step. So if I just sort this based on birthday, I can just say that I should have an extra birthday on this day. In order to add the random row, I'm just going to go up and add a new step where I will use the table insert rows function, insert rows, and I will pass that in on position 18, well, index position 18, and then I need to pass in a list of my row, well, rows, but I'm only adding in 1 column name, which is just name. And I'll just call this a random imposter because they're not supposed to be here. And the birthday will then be, I'm just going to set that to be equal to 10mas, the last one, because then I think it will be more likely for me to see it when I need to remember to erase it. And again, I'm just going to pass in a literal date, 3rd of December, and this is of course in a year, month, date. So now I have 2 people on the same birthday, and this will also cause it so that when I go in and look at the relationship, now it's mad because they've changed. So now this should be not a 1-to-1, it should be a many-to-1, because there are now 2 people in my Face Connect birthday table in the birthday that share the same day. And it is saying 1-to-1, and I don't like that because it's not supposed to. The pending change, so that might be because it hasn't updated, and that is not allowed for, so it's because I have to delete the relationship first and then update. And this can easily happen when you have something like birthdays where you might not have any duplicates, but you do if you have more data. So now it's saying the asterisk because I have 2 people with the same birthday. And now there's a relationship between these 2, and it no longer says that there are 18 for each month, but I have some that are blank, and it looks very, very wrong if we just, I never want to have quarters. Something is very, very wrong if I just copy this and turn it into a table. Yeah, year is 2023. There are 2 that don't have a birthday for some reason. Okay, yeah, it looked different when I did it earlier, but that's fine, because if I go in and I look at my Power Query model, I can see what's going on here is that this is not 2023, this is not 23, yeah, just these 2 that aren't 2023, and that has to do with something as basic as these dates. This is the day month, this is month day, this is day month without any leading zeros. So when this gets converted into a date, then we can see the second row here becomes the 1st of March 2020, but it should actually be March the 20th. So this should be March 20th for the 20th of March, but it thinks that it's the 1st of March 2020. So it thinks that these are the 2 last years, which requires a lot of workarounds, but luckily it's a small data set, so it's not that bad. I'm just going to make a copy of it, so it's a bit easier to deal with. And then I can just change this to whatever, because I want this to have the proper name so my relationships are maintained. At least that's what I'm hoping will happen. Which is also why I need to make sure that the columns are named the correct thing. I want to keep this, but I'll add that later. And this is why it's nice to have notes. So I'm going all the way back to the source, and I need to extract. I only want the letter portions because I know that all of my months here are written with text, so I don't have the 20th of the 5th month. It's always written in text. So I want to extract all of the text where the text is text, so letters. So I can add a custom column, and the problem is I can't just grab the first, like I can't do the split by delimiter, split column by delimiter, and have that be a space, because sometimes I will have the letters in the first column and sometimes have it in the second. So here I have April after the delimiter, here I have November before. So I'll be adding a new column where I want to select the text. So that is the Text.Select function, which is simply saying select only the text that fulfills this character, or this criteria actually. So it's from column 2, and my criteria is that they should be between, so this generates a list of values. So the list of values between capital A and a small z. And this might seem strange. Why am I saying large A first and small z first, or small z last? And this has something to do with the ASCII characters, which I will find a picture of. So this is the ASCII codes. And basically the way I understand it is that the number 65 gets converted into the letter capital A. So if you use in Excel here, you use character 65, that will return a capital A. And if you then look, you start at the capital A and go all the way to capital Z. And then you have these characters in between, and this isn't a problem because I know these won't be in a month. And then we have the small a going all the way to the small z. And if you're Danish and you have the AØO, then you need to do a different method, because you can't just say capital A until AØO, because those are something like value 200. And as we can see here, if I wanted to extract only the numbers, I could say I would create the list of 1 through 9, because the number 1 starts at 49. So character 49 becomes 1 and character 57 becomes 9. So this is just something to keep in mind. So I can try doing this the wrong way and say I want to start at the small a and end at capital Z, because maybe this is what you think you're supposed to do, because that makes sense given how the alphabet is. But that gives me this because I'm doing it wrong. This is the wrong order. because again, the small a comes after the big set. Well, actually, I think what's happening is it's creating a list between the small a and the large set. So that was those random characters with the hard bracket and such. So all that's really important is to make sure that a capital A is first and the small z is last. And now I have all of my months, which fortunately is already with the capital letter, which is nicer for me at least. And then I want to extract all the numbers, and I actually was lazy and I just googled that, because there is a really smart solution to grab all the numbers, which comes from this thread here. I want to extract all the numbers, where I just copied this function, I believe, this function, and then I had to change it a bit. So I will copy from my notes because I am lazy. And again, I just straight up copied his work anyway. So extract text, that's because it's called added custom, but I will change the name of the step. Extract text, that should be added custom. So it's saying combine list, remove nulls, list, transform text to list. So it's taking the values in column 2 and converting that into a list. So 31 space July becomes a list, and then that list gets transformed, and then I think it's saying, is it a text? And then it converts it into a number, and it removes nulls, and it combines. All I know is that it works, and that's all I really care about, because I could do the Text.Select function just as before, and I can try doing that, but I think it failed for some reason. So again, column 2, and I want to pass in a list of numbers 1 through 9. I think it got mad, yeah, because it's typed text. But if I then do with the quotation marks, okay, so that does actually work, because this is recognized as a number when it gets converted, because I assume the Text.Select actually does a loop through each value or each character in my text, and then saying, is this equal to the text? So it's saying 3, this is not the number 3, it's the text 3. So both functions will work in this case, and because this is a lot simpler than this one, because this takes into account nulls and other stuff, so I'm going to delete that step. But it's always nice to know that there are other options. Actually, I made a mistake here, yeah, because mine didn't work. And here I pay the price of Power Query not having a control set button, because I can't just go back. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah. Here it's March 20, and here it gives me 2, but it's supposed to be 20. And that's because I set a list of numbers from 1 through 9, but I want 0 through 9. So now they should give me the same value, and I can actually do that with a really easy test and just ask if this value is equal to that value. And actually, I don't even think I need to do an if. I can just say true, false. And this only generates true, so the two function does give the same. So again, in my case, because this has a lot of steps that are combined on one another, I don't want to use that. And instead, I just want this. This is a lot easier for another person to take over and understand. And at that point, I just want to combine my steps. So I want to first grab the year of today, because I'll be using that many times. So I'll basically use this step as a variable and say that this should be the text from, because I'll be using string concatenation to combine these two columns. And then I want the year from, and I want that from the local now. And again, that's a function, so you need the open close parentheses, and that will give me text here. So if, just for the sake of showing, if I remove that, it will be a number. And I don't want it to be a number because I'm doing string concatenation. So it needs to be a string. The only number step, just so it's easier to see. And all I have to do is just add a column to that. And that is simply, I want to convert custom to, because it says it's type any, but I think it's still converted into a number, even though it's not in italics and not on the right. Because if I just try to, I can try to do it without, and then I'll see if it works. So number first, and I'm adding in a separator just to make it more clear, because I want to make sure the Power Query understands that this is the date. So the number and a dash and the month and a dash and then the value from today's year. And then, okay, so that is fine. So I don't have to add a text.from here. So that's good to know. And I want that to be type date. And here I believe I had a weird situation where it says it's a date here, but it's not actually a date, because I can't do, if I try to do that at least. Yeah, it's going to get mad because it doesn't actually understand that it's a date, even though I specifically say up here that the new column should be a date, but it just doesn't. It gives me the icon, but it's not. And this is just something I've seen very rarely when you add a new column, and I don't know why that is. I could actually, just again for the sake of argument, if I say I want to add another step, and then instead of doing this string concatenation, if I use the hashtag date function, that might make more sense. So instead of saying custom to dash blah blah blah, I will instead say hashtag date, and I need to grab the year from today's year, the step, and the month is then the custom, and the day is then custom to. And I want this, yeah, and that gets mad. We cannot convert the value to a type number. Okay. So now I might need to do all of that converting back into numbers. Yeah, because July is not a number. So the hashtag date function wants numbers, and I don't want to have to convert a month into a number. You can do that with the month function, but I don't want to do that when I can just do string concatenation, because I already have this in letters. So I'll just say that this is a type date, and now it works because it's in italics and on the right, and I have access to the date functions. And then I need to remove, I only need the birthday and the name, and I don't want that. I did that in the wrong order again. So the order that you highlight in will determine the order of the columns. And then I want to rename that to be name, and then I want to add my last step, just so I have an extra row here. And then I need to make sure that it's referring to renamed columns. So that is fine. Actually, I wanted to sort first, and you don't actually need to sort it, but it's just so that I can find the random imposter more easily. And then I'm going to call this something, because here a node is kind of important, so the whoever has to take this over knows why I did this. To get a duplicate birthday. So that is fine, and now I no longer need that, and I could disable load, so it's still here inside of my Power Query in case I need to go back, but that's pointless because I don't need it. And I made sure that this was called the right thing, so when I close and load, everything should be fine because it has the same name. So the visuals are fine, but I guess the model here, that got removed, the relationships, which is luckily very easy to reapply. So now I can see that my year is 2023, and I don't have any with the wrong birthdays. And again, I have two who have a birthday on the 3rd of December 2023, and that's exactly what I wanted. So that was the Power Query portion, which is where I'm going to stop here, and then I'll get started on making measures.